is it removes representation for your taxing dollars. You know, so by our Constitution, they set up these jurisdictional taxing bodies. So there's a taxing body that has a geographical jurisdiction, and by the Constitution, you know, we elect representatives to oversee that taxing body. So what happens with the emergency manager law is that's all thrown out the window. That the state comes in and appoints somebody to run the revenues for that taxing body. So right there's no taxation with there's no representation with for your taxation dollars. So that's one problem. The other problem is that they went to the courts, and the courts actually agreed with them that the cities are agents of the state. So the problem with that, you know, in my opinion, is that it removes the separation of powers. There's not only supposed to be the three branches of government, the legislature, the executive branch, and the judicial branch, but there's also supposed to be the three levels of government: the federal, the state, and the local. And when the state is allowed to come in and appoint a manager for the local issues and the local money, and when that manager is not elected, and he has no ties to that community, he doesn't pay taxes in that community, then what we have is a banana republic. You know, it's not a real democracy, is what's happening. And the manager that he appoints has no fiduciary responsibility for the public assets that he is now appointed to oversee. But he is also an agent of the state. He's a public officer because he's not elected. He's appointed by the governor, and he cashes a check from the treasury. So that automatically puts him under the province of having ethical codes of conduct that he has to adhere to. And in the transformation of when they switched our water and then denied that it was bad, they actually violated some of those ethical conduct codes. Now, unfortunately, the legislative branch has a board of ethics, but it's packed with political appointees that are sitting on their hands and doing nothing but canceling scheduled meetings. For example, they did it last December when all this story was broken. The board of ethics decided to cancel all their meetings. They only meet 4 times a year, mind you, and they're all GOP political appointees. And they've been sitting in their hands and doing nothing about this, you know, gross negligence and ethical violations, you know, promulgated from the governor, because the emergency manager only reports to the governor. That's the only person he reports to. And there was 2 emergency managers in Flint that are now under indictment and facing charges based on these ethical violations. That's going to be the evidence that Schwede is going to be presenting before the courts. And that's part of where we're at, is we're in this investigative discovery phase of that trial. Unfortunately, the county is trying to block some of that discovery and pushing back on it, so it's taking longer than we really want. But Schwede is going to be presenting evidence that these emergency managers violated the ethical codes of conduct that all public officials have to adhere to. So that's where we are there. In terms of water, you know, the other big problem where we're at is Nestle is now putting forth a proposal to start pumping more water out. As you probably, many of you know, I know Jennifer knows, that Nestle's pumping water out of our state at a rate of about 3 million bottles a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, 365.
For free.
Huh?
For free.
For $200. For $200. So us in Flint, we pay about $200 a month, which is very high for water we can't even use. That, you know, poisons our fish and makes our hair fall out. You know, to this day they try, and you know, the NDEQ is not helping us here because they're saying that the water is clean, but we know that's not true, because in the same breath they say, well, except when we're fixing the pipes. Well, we know they're going to be fixing the pipes for the next 10 years. So the water is not going to be clean for the next 10 years. You know, and the same, and in Detroit, I don't know how many of you are from Detroit, but in Detroit we have a problem with the air smog in Marathon Refinery, and we've been pushing for the NDEQ to put these pollution monitoring sensors around the Marathon Refinery to measure the particulate matter coming out. And we petitioned them to spend $50,000 for 3 very, you know, high-end pollution monitoring systems that measure all the toxins. They denied. They finally put in one monitoring system that doesn't measure all the toxins, all the pollutions. and then they put it as far away as possible upwind, you know. And this MDEQ, they're not supposed to be representing the corporation. They're supposed to be representing the public's interest for the public's public assets, which is our air, you know. And they're not doing their responsibility of safeguarding our environment, which is what they're charged to do. So we've actually decided to take it upon ourselves to start measuring these things. We have a grassroots effort that we're starting using some technology that we're investing in. And we're going to be ringing these facilities by ourselves and tracking their particulate matter dumping that they do on these inner cities by ourselves. And because we found out we can't rely on these guys. These guys are at war with us, and you know, their whole mindset is to fleece the taxpayers and draw as much of the public assets out as they can and much as the resources out as they can. And they don't care about, you know, life. So we can't rely on them. We have to do it for ourselves. The MDQ is not going to help us. And it's a shame. Thanks.
Thank you very much. The last